In this video, we'll take a look at NPKLive II for the MPD32. This is actually a complete rewrite. It's quite a bit different from the previous version, so we'll go through the entire feature set. First, I'll show you the global controls. These are controls that stay the same regardless of which mode or bank you're in. First of all, with the transport controls here, you have play, stop, and record. The rewind and fast forward buttons are used for track navigation. These also have shifted functions. Your shift button is up here. And with shift, you have bank up and down. That works differently depending on which mode you're in. Then you have undo, clip launch, which will launch the currently selected clip, and then clip record, which makes recording clips a little bit easier. Up on the top here, the first three buttons are used for switching between knob modes, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. The next button will switch between views, clip and track view, and session and arrange view. Next to that, you have scene launch and stop all. Then these two buttons will navigate between scenes. These will scroll if you hold them down, and they can also be used for adjusting tempo in 1 BPM increments. The faders always control volume for the 8 tracks in the selected bank. Right now I'm controlling tracks 1 through 8. I can switch to the next bank of 8 tracks and control those. And I can also switch to the return bank so that I can control up to 8 returns. Alright, now I'm not sure if you noticed, but as I was going through those different banks, there was no big jumps in values happening. And that's because there's an internal takeover feature that prevents that. By default, the knobs control pan for the 8 tracks in the selected bank. Alright, they can also control sends. Select the track and control the first 8 sends on it. Alright, the next function is device control. In here, you can control the first 8 parameters on a device. If it has more than 8 parameters, you can move between banks of parameters. The knobs also have some master control functions, which you can get to with Control Bank B. First you have scene up and down, then track left and right, then up and down arrow keys, left and right arrow keys, and plus and minus keys. Down here you have a focus knob that can move the focus around. Right now I have the main view focused. I can move down here to the detail focus so I can navigate around in there and expand and collapse devices. Then I can move to the browser so I can navigate around in there as well. Alright. Up here you have a tempo knob. This works in 1 BPM increments. And then down here you can control the master level. By default, the pads are set up to control some track parameters. The top 8 pads can mute tracks. Alright, these will toggle if you press them quickly, and they'll turn into momentary switches if you hold them down. Shift plus the top pads can solo tracks. Alright, the bottom pads can launch clips. You could choose which clips these launch with the scene up and down buttons. Alright, and then shift plus the bottom pads will arm tracks. The next function for the pads is to control Live's drum rack. You can get to that by switching to pad bank B. And here the bottom 12 pads control the visible pads in the drum rack. Alright, these 2 pads up here are last pads. Whichever pad you hit last gets assigned to them. Alright, so that makes playing fast passages easier. And then up here you have 2 cycle sequencers. Those can record sequences of up to 8 notes each and then play them back sequentially. The way that works is you press shift plus one of them to get into recording mode, then play your steps. Alright, and when you're done, just press the pad again to end recording and to start playing back. The next function for the pads is scale mode. That's in pad bank C. And here you have access to 40 scale types. You can play the scales with the bottom 12 pads. Alright, right now they're just playing a chromatic scale. To change that, use program change messages. For example, to switch to a blues scale, I'll send program change 4. Alright, to play a Hungarian gypsy scale, I'd switch to program change 15. Alright, with the top pads you can transpose in a couple different ways. You can transpose the root note. You can also move in octaves. The last function of the pads is navigation mode. You can get to that in pad bank D. And here the pads are used for navigating, for controlling Live's views, and for some simple editing. Alright, and this is completely reassignable on your end. For example, we give you a default layout, and it sets up this pad here to open and close the browser. If you have no need for that, you can change the assignment of that pad directly from the MPD itself. Alright, I could just change the note it's sending. I'll change this to 67, and now that pad can be used for hiding and showing the detail view, or hiding and showing the mixer.